Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
It's my great pleasure to welcome Professor Rajiv Reddy from Carnegie Mellon University to visit us. He will talk about the guardian angels. That will be very exciting to many of us. Professor Rajiv Reddy is a pioneer in artificial intelligence and robotics and speech recognition, whose achievement without the need to have any introduction. And for many people who are familiar with Microsoft internal people, we know that the three managing directors from our research lab in Asia, starting from Kai-Fu Lee, Harry Sham, and Xiaowen Hong, were all Rogers students at the Carnegie Mellon. So without further ado, let's welcome Rajiv Reddy.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be back here. I used to come here 2-3 times a year as a member of the TAB from 91 to 2006. Finally, I said, I've served enough and stopped coming. So I haven't been here in the last 3-4 years. So it's a pleasure to be back here at MSR. In the digital world of 21st century, every person on the planet should be able to get timely warning about potential dangers that might befall them, such as earthquakes or flooding or typhoons or tornadoes. So in this talk, I want to kind of give you an outline of what a guardian angel technologies might be like that will provide the right information to the right people and eliminate surprise and protect them from unexpected problems. So with that, we'll go to the first slide. So 20 years ago, my colleague, Professor Carbonell, who happens to be here, both of us are visiting Microsoft in another context, proposed a grand challenge for computer science that society should aspire to get the right information to the right people at the right time, in the right language, in the right medium of text and multimedia, at the right level of detail. This was, something, it was a clear vision 20 years ago, but we didn't know how to do it then. It was not clear what we mean by all of these. At that time, getting it in the right language meant we had to solve the translation problem. We didn't know how to do it then. At least now it's slightly better. It could be significantly better. And text-to-speech technologies and summarization technologies are also making progress. But the right information to the right people at the right time still continue to be difficult ideas to grasp and kind of get your hands around. So before one of the interesting things was that kind of caught my attention when I heard it from Jaime was he called it the Digital Bill of Rights. Those of you who are aware of the Constitution of the United States know that there are the first 10 amendments are Bill of Rights. So I said, what relationship is there between this Digital Bill of Rights and the regular Bill of Rights? This is the 30 human rights from United Nations, which includes the 10 Digital Bill of Rights that are in the Constitution of the United States. Maybe not all of them. There's some overlap, and most of them are there, but some things are not. So there is a statement in the original Bill of Rights saying a soldier cannot walk into somebody's house and take it over. I don't know whether it is there in that form, but the right to own property might be part of such a statement or something. But so anyway, the interesting thing about this particular Bill of Rights is the original Bill of Rights came from the 17th century philosophical thought of John Locke and adopted by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, that people are naturally free and equal and are endowed with some unalienable rights. It's a very famous statement in the Constitution. Or is it the Declaration of Independence? Anyway, this is something I read about. I thought it was a great statement. That until that time, it was not clear that every person had some rights. If you're in a kingdom, king can order your head shall be chopped off and you're gone. But here it says they're naturally free and equal and are endowed with some unalienable rights. So from there, we went to the human rights in a digital society by United Nations, which are kind of interesting in their right. There you kind of find a set of rights like unrestricted access, a right to be connected all the time, right to freedom of online expression, security and data protection, and so on. And again, these are well-deserving rights, but they're not necessarily implemented or followed by countries around the world. And there are censorships and other kinds of things in different countries. When they see something that they don't like Turkey or Egypt, they will immediately turn off the whole internet if necessary. And so the Digital Bill of Rights we are talking about here is much more proactive. It says, if you can get the right information to the right people in the right language at the right time frame, then you can actually help the people in ways that otherwise may not be able to do. So the question is, can we do that, and what would it take? And we made a lot of progress on some of the things, summarization, translation, and so on, but not much progress in the first three. And so I just want to make sure that we are all on the same wavelength when it comes to what we mean by these terms. The right information is all information impacting life, liberty, and happiness. In particular, information about safety, security, and well-being. And that means providing information about natural emergencies and man-made emergencies. It's also information about disruption of basic necessities of life, such as water, electricity, food and health, transportation. And it's also about information about daily problems, traffic jams, strikes, school closings, and so on. The missing science of what we mean by right information is, for any one person, the right information is the relevant information. Most of the information that is there in the news and other sources is not of direct interest. Secondly, there's the scarcity of human attention. We don't have enough time to look at everything that is there, so we need to somehow personalize the technologies of information. And the right information is also kind of getting that information in a form that's easily accessible. So if I'm driving or if I'm in a meeting or something, you can't have a loud noise on the phone saying there's some email that has come or something has come. And so the notification and alerts that you see on cell phones, I think, are pretty reasonable as a way of providing this information. And so given a known problem such as an earthquake, the big problem we face is, how do we identify who is going to be affected by that event? And then once you identify the sphere of influence, then you need to say, who are all the people that are currently there in that area? That's not currently known to most people, but is known to the service providers, because every tower knows what are all the phones that are connected to that tower. That's required by law, actually. They have to keep that information about location information. And so then once you identify who are the affected people and what information to be sent to them, the next thing you want is tell them that information is happening, and then prepare them for various contingencies, give them advice on how they might, kind of protect themselves. But the interesting part is, if you turn off the computer, if you turn off your cell phone, or if you're sleeping, or under what conditions should this alert be, how will you get the information? What that means is the current concept of turning off a phone has to be modified. There's only one situation where even when the computer is, when the cell phone is turned off, you get an alert. That is, if you set an alarm and go to sleep, even if the computer is turned off, it wakes up and rings the alarm, right? So mechanisms are already there inside. The only requirement now is an external agent, external software agent must be able to do the same thing. That essentially is a problem, because an alarm doesn't consume too much energy because it's not sampling and the cell tower continuously, and that consumes a lot of energy. And so the issue is, are you willing to permit that kind of waste of energy? And I think partial solutions are possible. You don't have to continuously sample. You could do it every 5 minutes or every 2 minutes or whatever, so that the amount of energy consumed is like 1% of what it currently consumed when it's always on, ready to receive a phone call anytime that I call. So assuming that's possible, assuming that our external software agent can actually, send an alert and wake up the computer and then provide appropriate information, then I think using push technology for timely communication can be satisfied. Finally, you need a database of personal profile of interest. Basically, a lot of people in the world don't speak English, so giving them an English language alert is not going to help. So you need to know what language they're speaking. In absence of having a database, your best bet is to simply use the language of the location. And you already know the location information from the cell tower. So the idea is people will not be very happy about you tracking them any more than the information that's already being tracked by the cell tower. And so that's the privacy issue. We'll come to it a little later. And so the issue is they cannot not only understand English language, they may not be able to read any language. So simply sending a text alert may not be adequate. That's where the issue of right medium comes in. So whatever message is being sent has to be then converted from text to speech and then spoken out. So those are the kind of what I call missing science of what we need to do in order to provide the right information to the right people. Now we come to what do we mean by the right people, right? And the right people, again, is a very complex issue. And right people is anyone and everyone in the world that may be impacted by the daily events. That's both literate and illiterate, and people in industrialized world and also developing economies in the most remote areas. And so I am saying every person has the right to get the timely information, and that's 7 billion people. And unfortunately, there are some limitations to it. The two biggest limitations are that many of them don't have a device that can receive an alert. Right now, it's estimated maybe about 2 billion people out of the 7 have a device that can receive either a smartphone-like message or a simple text message on a feature phone. But the remaining 5 billion are maybe 3 of those are expected to join the digital revolution in the next few years, by 2020, and maybe 2 billion will never have it unless there's a specific attempt made to get all of them access to the technology. And later on I'll make the case it is a right of every individual to have the information, therefore it's a right of every individual to have a smartphone, therefore it's a right that they can demand. If in a civilized society everybody should have a road and electricity and sewage systems and water supply, they should also have information access. That's a right to the society, and so we'll come back to that. But the right people then is everybody on the planet. At the right time is very interesting also, because right time is just in time. As Simon used to say, if it's too soon, we forget. If I send you a reminder of this meeting a week ago, you may or may not remember it, right? Or if you send it 1 minute, before the meeting, it's too late. By the time you may be far away, you can't come and attend the meeting. So it has to be on the right time. But more importantly, it's not always something that you can plan for. There are extraneous events in life that happen at the most inopportune time. It's not only the natural emergencies and man-made emergencies, it's also personal emergencies. Suddenly your father is seriously ill and you have to drop everything you're doing and fly halfway around the world, and that's what you may have to do, right? And so the issue of right time is very important to kind of understand and deal with. It turns out time is money in certain things. There's a new book by Michael Lewis called Flash Boys, I think it's called, which is about the fact that some of the hedge fund traders built a separate fiber line between Newark and New Jersey and Chicago, so that they would get 5 millisecond advantage in trading and make millions of dollars. And it's all, if you haven't read this book, it's fun to read. It reads like a detective novel. So finally, right time, it turns out, in emergencies like traffic emergencies and so on, it is known in medical literature that if you can get an ambulance to the accident site in less than 10 minutes, you will save 80% of the people that would have otherwise died. And I know this firsthand. I was kind of on the board of there was no 911 in India for a long time. In 2005, it was set up by a thing called EMRI, Emergency Research Institute, and it turns out they had to get a special number called 108. It was not 911, but they were able to use the latest available technology of location-based services, and they knew exactly where the ambulance was and where the accident was, and they could find the right one and route it. Unfortunately, in the United States, we still are, kind of living with ancient 911, because the 911s in the United States are run by counties. And if you happen to be in the neighboring county and there's an ambulance right there that can get to you within 2 minutes, you don't get that. You have to get an ambulance, an hour away in the county. And so that kind of location information is not there in the US systems right now. And they might change, but right now it's not. So going to the next topic, the right language. Right language is the language of preferred mode of communication. So that means we're assuming that we have a database for everybody that we know what their language of preferred communication is. But because of privacy considerations, this information may not be available. However, it is possible for us to create a database of location-based language. So if you know where the person is supposed to be at that particular time, from the service provider logs, then you can send them a message in the local language. It could be, Marathi or Swahili or something else, and you would do that because you know where they are. And that, I'm not sure that such a database exists. If not, we can, I'm sure, create it. It should not be a big problem. Secondly, once you have the information about the preferred language of communication, then we need to kind of take the message from English or whatever, however we generated it, and translate it into the local language. And then once we translate it, it may have to be converted by using text-to-speech into local speech, and then played out. And so the translation systems are not that perfect. They're still, but I don't know about Microsoft. Google claims they have 80 plus pairs of 80 squared language translation that they can do at this point. And speech-to-speech translation is a little bit worse, but I think people are trying to make progress on all of them. The right medium, basically we have two problems in the world. There is the problem of language divide and literacy divide. The language divide is, translating from one language to the other. And if most people, 4 billion people, don't read English or Chinese or European languages, then text message in English is not adequate. The literacy divide is even more serious problem. There are about 1 billion people that can't read anything. They are illiterate, right? So to reach every person on the planet then, messages may need to be sent in all different media to all different devices. And now you're kind of swamping the system with all kinds of data glut. So the issue may be if there is a database which tells you what kind of information to send where, but it turns out all of us live on multiple devices. Sometimes we use a laptop, sometimes we use a cell phone, sometimes we use even smaller devices perhaps. And if you knew which is the current unit that I'm using, then it's easy to send. If you didn't have it, then you may have to send it to all of them. So one of the things I complain about is if you're using cell phones, there are notifications you get, right? And but I said, why can't I get the same thing in my email? Because I may not be looking at my, I think there's no reason today why I can't get the same notification, that you've just received an email or from somebody or a notification about some news item, but it could come as a subject line, a short message subject line in the email also. But that people have not gotten to that stage of saying it should be device independent communication. And so I think we'll get there. And finally, the right level of detail. Summarization is an active area of research around the world. I'm sure there's a lot of work here at Microsoft. But what is not yet clear to me is there are other kinds of summarization that we may need to do. Summarization of speech, summarization of music, summarization of images, and video and art and movies, including 3.5-hour football games, which can be summarized to 1 hour or half hour or 15 minutes. I believe this is being done. It is being done semi-manually. Basically what you do is all the key events you flag manually, and then the system looks around the video and then clips appropriate parts. But I think ultimately we need to be, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do all of that fully automatically. So the other difficult problem is context-aware summarization. Basically different summarizations for experts and novices, and summarization of movies for young children, which might leave out some things, whereas for adults, so basically there are lots of interesting issues. So all of that leads to what is the solution for this problem of getting the right information to the right people at the right time frame, in the right language, in the right level of detail and granularity. So we are proposing to get the right information to the right people, that every person on the planet will have access to a smartphone with an embedded personal guardian angel. If it doesn't have an embedded software that is aware of guardian angel requirements, then it's much harder to wake up this system and then provide the right information. So a definition of a guardian angel is a virtual avatar that provides future aware computation. It knows about things that you have no reason to know. And it whispers in your ear that a tornado is heading your way. So what we are envisioning is not just one guardian angel in your phone, but a Facebook of guardian angels, a society or a social network of guardian angels, all of whom are talking to each other and know what each other knows. That means they not only know what I should know, but they also... This is very important, because if they can talk to each other and share anonymized information about what kinds of things have affected other people and how they were able to resolve or solve them, then that becomes input to this guardian angel. And so this component is part of what is sometimes called transfer learning, where if somebody knows the answer, I know the answer. And I know the answer because the person that knows the answer has similar properties. He's in the same location, has the same language, or same age group, or same expectations, or whatever. And based on the similarity of interests and personalities and properties, these guardian angels can share information. This makes it extremely powerful. Not only do I know what I know, not only do I know what my own agent can know, now I'm saying I know what you know and what your agents know.
It could be too much information.
Huh?
It's too much information.
Too much information.
Yeah.
No,
It's
but
somehow
that's where the whole issue. I'll come to that in a minute. But basically, H.G. Wells, imagined such a world of interconnected global brain, and I'll tell you about what he said in a minute. So, and these guardian angels social network is sharing anonymized knowledge, and we understand how to do that with publish-subscribe mechanisms of social networking. So that the issue then is when you have too much knowledge. I, as a person, don't have to look at 7 billion pieces of information. All I'm looking for is anything happening in my neighborhood, anything happening to other people like me, and so on. That's where we already understand the solution. Called search technology. I have 7 billion posts of something, and I need to only know the few that really impact me. And we understand how to do search of very large databases of that kind, right?
We call it super Cortana.
Exactly. So I think this should be done, and and so you're sharing this anonymized knowledge. So getting the right information is a big idea. If everybody has to get this information, there are lots of issues. Just the question that was just asked about how do we filter out all the data glut and only get the right information? How do we determine what right information might be for each person on the planet? And I am assuming if I have a guardian angel, it's taking care of my information, not yours and not anybody else's. But taken together, I'm assuming there's a huge amount of computation being expended across all the planet in some sense. And so how do we know what is of interest to each of them? How do we communicate with each of these guardian angels and so on? So there's a whole set of design issues of that kind that come up. So what we imagine the guardian angels to have, they're like an app, except they're on steroids, if you want to think of it. And they're also not like an app in that they're always on. They're residing on the cloud. They're always present and always working. And they're lifelong. You don't kind of turn on and turn off and tap like an app. They're always on there. They're working all the time. And they're autonomic and non-intrusive. They're autonomic in the sense, just like your heart is beating, they're always kind of doing the thing they're supposed to be doing. And more importantly, they're non-intrusive. We don't want them to interrupt you all the time and saying, this thing is happening, that thing is happening. For example, I get alerts all the time, like stupid things like there's a meeting reminder. The meeting reminder should not ring a bell or anything. It should appear on my screen, perhaps. And other than that, right now, they go out of the way to make a nuisance of themselves for meeting reminder. If there's an emergency, by all means, I need that. So there must be distinctions between the nature of the interruptions. The non-intrusive part is very central to the success of these things, because people will turn them off completely or not even carry them if they become a nuisance. And they must always learn, continuously learning what things are similar, what things are not, and insofar as we were just talking about, when some error is made, how does a person let the guardian angel know you didn't do the right thing here? And then how does it figure out and learn from the errors? That turns out to be a very central part of these kinds of systems, always learning. And they must be device independent. They should not assume the information is being sent to one kind of device. If I'm have a cell phone or a watch phone or a laptop, I should get the information in all of them. And the only issue is, ideally, if it knows exactly which one I'm using, it should only send it to that. If it doesn't know that information, it can send it to all of them. But as soon as it sees that I've used one of them, it should wipe out the other two. So the idea is to protect me from this data glut all the time. It's a problem that. So the question is, these guardian angels, they monitor the activities all the time, whatever is happening in the world, and then they analyze all that data by searching for things that are relevant to this location, this person, or this kind of activity, and then learn from that experience, learn from own experience and experience of others, and share the knowledge with a community of guardian angels. So automated discovery of data and information sources becomes one of the requirements of these kinds of things. Everything I'm saying here is a non-trivial problem. It hasn't been done, but they're doable. They're not something that we should shy away from. So the next task is functionality, right, of the guardian angels. A personal guardian angel must continuously derive future courses of actions from local observations. A Facebook of guardian angels will be able to know all the disruptive events that might affect your life. And a personal guardian angel can also assist you in day-to-day problem solving. It doesn't have to be a hurricane. It can be what is an alternative route in case of an accident and so on. So that's the kind of functionality we're imagining these guardian angels might have. As I said earlier, every guardian angel is always on, continuously monitoring and accumulating a large amount of episodic knowledge, right? This data, suitably anonymized, can be used to learn appropriate responses for each possible situation. So that means the learning technology that you have to build is you have to learn preferences by observing devices, learn task similarity and user similarity, learn error correction, learn by error correction and simply learning through clarification dialogue. And all of them are different kinds of learning components that we need to build into these systems. And not everything is there. Now, what do we mean by task similarity and user similarity? Learning, how do you learn from clarification dialogue when the system makes an error or something? So there will be enough data in this case so that it's probably will be one of the large big data problems that the world will face. So the next set of issues are implementation infrastructure issues. One is, I'm assuming by 2020, everyone on the planet has an access to a smartphone and global connectivity. This may be a tall order. This is only 6 years from now. It may not happen, but I think it can be made to happen. And I'll come back to that issue of how can you force this to happen. But by what I mean by have access to a smartphone, if you're in a family, not everybody has to have one. Initially, even if every family has one, that may be enough. But later on, if you're kind of rich and in a city, maybe everybody will have one. But in remote areas, even having one, the harder problem is connectivity. Right now, large parts of the globe are not connected. 3/4 of the globe, which is the oceans, are definitely not connected easily. And even the rest of the globe, they're talking about flying balloons and drones and all kinds of things to get connectivity. I think there's no simple solution, and the cost is limited and bounded. The cost of getting everybody connected is about $200 billion. And it's a one-time cost. And if you think about it, and the gross national product of United States is like about $20 trillion. The gross world product is about $100 trillion. So if we're talking about connecting the whole world, $200 billion compared to $100 trillion is 0.2%. And it's a one-time cost. And it'll be there for the next, 100 years. If $200 billion is if you want to connect to the last mile with Wi-Fi, WiMAX, Wi-Fi, one that was done here at Microsoft Research. All of that using all the technologies, you can get connected. My vision is everybody should be connected at a gigabit. There's absolutely no reason not to do that. Even wireless technologies will be there at a gigabit, and we need to work towards it. But most of the people in cities and towns, and even some villages nearby on the main route, can get gigabit connection directly through fiber. And the reason it's $200 billion is the last mile connectivity that's the expense. And otherwise, you can do the whole global connectivity for about $20 billion, 1/10 of the cost. Every country and every major city will be connected, but that still leaves out a lot of people that are not connected. Once you get the device and connectivity out of the way, which are big problems, then you also need your own personal computational resources. And I'm assuming, given the way things are going with cloud computing and free resources, Microsoft is giving everybody 7 gigabytes for free on the OneDrive today. So I immediately signed up. I have free memory from Google, free memory from Microsoft, free memory from Dropbox, everybody. And so I end up having like 20, 30 GB of online resources for free. And so I'm saying unlimited computation, unlimited memory, and unlimited bandwidth must be the goal. And I believe it's doable. Because every cell phone, if you look at it, the computation involved in the 4 NVIDIA chips that are in the cell phone is close to a supercomputer power of 10, 15 years ago. It already has that. So if we assume everybody has a cell phone, then maybe what I'm saying here is not so unreasonable. And so the issue of cloud computing for prediction and notification, most of the work is done on the cloud because they're always on, always working cognitive agents. All that you're doing on the platform, mobile platform, is the rendering of the result. So the programming on the mobile platform becomes much more simpler. And you program it once, and then only rendering is if you have 10 different devices, iPhones and Android phones and Windows mobile phones. It's not a big deal having all of them work smoothly. So the next 2 topics is, one is cost, and the other one is privacy. The cost, if you assume there's 7 billion people and the cost of a device now is like $200 billion, we're talking about $200. We're talking about $140 billion. I think we can reasonably assume that it'll be down to about $50. People like Eric Schmidt talk about $20 smartphones. It'll happen, but not immediately, but it may be somewhat brain dead. Namely, it may not have 16 GB of memory or not, whatever. But if it is $50, now we're talking about $350 billion of cost. Now, if you take my number of $100 trillion gross world product, the cost of 350 is only like 0.3%, one-time cost. And if you assume that you'll use the phone for 4 or 5 years, it is less than 0.01%, 0.1%. So we should not be scared away. There's another reason for it, not to be scared away. The estimate is the growth in economic activity by the networking effect of 7 billion people interconnected. If 1 billion people are connected and then go to 7, you're talking about 7 squared impact, 50 times more activity. And the predictions are, I don't have exact numbers, there'll be economic growth as a result of this connected network effect of between 10 to 30% of gross world product. That means by investing $350 billion plus another, let's say, $300 billion, $200 billion in connectivity, you may be creating economic activity of $30 trillion. So it'll kind of more or less pay for itself in 1 month. If not 1 month, even if it's 6 months or a year, it's still worth it. And it's worth it even if it costs more time than that. The second one, the second big elephant, is the privacy. Namely, we're assuming these guardian angels can share information with each other. The question is, what information are they sharing? Do you want everybody to know where you are, where you're sleeping that night? Maybe not. And so the question is, what you have to assume, you and your guardian angel are one and the same. Anything you know, it knows. But just because it knows, it's like your consciousness knowing what you know, doesn't mean your privacy is violated. The question is, what information can it genuinely share with other in the social network of guardian angels so that others can also benefit from it and so on. That anonymization research has not been done fully. We do anonymization now, and what I'm saying is, at the worst case, I already know where every cell phone is throughout, because that information is known to the cell providers, service providers. It is logged. It can be found out subpoenaed by the governments if you want. In that sense, there are certain things that are beyond your control. But it may not know precise GPS location of where you're sleeping that night, but it knows within 1 square kilometer or a few square kilometers where you are. That may be enough. It's for most of the events like tornadoes and earthquakes and typhoons, that may be enough. But it would be better if we can get a more crisper information. And the other thing I'm saying is there is no breach of privacy since each guardian angel only shares information already known to service providers and other nearby agents. Whatever is happening to you is also happening to your neighbor. And so it's not as though the information that is being broadcast is personal information, saying who else is in bed with you kind of thing. That's not the issue here. Unless, of course, there are two cell phones in the same room and they're sharing that information. Even then, it's not clear that anybody else needs to be told that information. So there's not much. I believe it's an acceptable level of loss of privacy that's already. We are not doing anything new. It's already gone because the government says everybody must, the location information must be kept and logged. That's part of the current system. So this brings me to the end of the talk. Basically, there was a very kind of visionary book by H.G. Wells about 100 years ago, maybe 80 years ago, in the 1930, I think it was sometime there, where he imagined a global brain. This global brain, it was a synthetic supermind within the species of Homo sapiens. And he envisioned these superhuman intelligences to represent the ultimate unification of all knowledge, of all the memory of all the people. I think the way the instantiation I think of is, I think now we can accomplish that by connecting our guardian angels. We don't have to put electrodes in our brain. We just connect all the guardian angels into a social network, and they will be able to monitor, analyze, and learn from their own experience and experience of the others, and share anonymized knowledge through published, subscribe mechanisms. Finally, so the grand challenge for the 21st century, as I see it, is the creation and deployment of guardian angel technology for providing the right information to every man, woman, and child on the planet. And this will be a disruptive technology if we succeed in the IT ecosystem. Because right now, at Microsoft, everybody is thinking about the billion people and what they can do for the billion people. Nobody is seriously saying, if I have 7 billion people I am serving, and they all have different needs. They're not the same needs as the most professional billion people that use the technology today. It's the same thing that happened. In the 60s, we were having mainframes. In the 70s, we had minis. In the 80s, we had PCs. In the 90s, we had networks. And to 2010, we are having mobile systems. Now, the issue is, as you go to these newer systems, the requirements of computation become completely different. And we need a different mindset to think about what will those people need and what can we work on now that will actually be truly revolutionary at that time. So my prediction is, given we are willing to spend 0.1% of the global world product, we will save 50 to 80% of deaths every year. And the number of deaths, accidental deaths globally, are about 2 to 3 million every year. A large number of them are automotive accidents. I think the self-driving cars will eliminate a lot of them already. But I think even things like earthquakes and other natural disasters, annual number of deaths are like 10, 20,000, which, by the time you add up, that's in the United States, you add up the whole world, where they don't have as good warning systems, it kind of accumulates. So if we can eliminate 50 to 80% of those deaths, accidental deaths, that would be fantastic. And I think it is worth doing. And my view is Microsoft should adopt this project and do it. Okay, thank you very much.
How far has this project gone? You probably pitch to the government and other companies.
Yeah, basically,
Progress.
let me go back there for a minute. So basically what I said here was, there's a way of making it happen. And there are 4 stakeholders. The government is one of them. The manufacturers of the phones is the second one, Lenovo, Nokia, and all of them. The telecom service providers, Verizon and AT&T and China Mobile and Airtel and so on, and finally Microsofts and Googles of the world that would benefit from having all this infrastructure. I'm saying each of them should kick in 1/4 of the cost of the smartphone, which is nothing, and because you're saying I'm going to give it away. My proposal is don't give it away, rent it away, or simply say, we'll give you a free phone, a starter kit. After a year, you're now more sophisticated, you want some better one, we'll sell it to you for a small increment in cost. Now you recycle the old one to somebody else who doesn't have one yet. And so you're creating a market space where this whole thing can be done. Connectivity is a different matter. That requires all the governments to come together. There was a thing called Intelsat that was created in the 60s. I don't know if you remember it.
I thought that this Facebook is doing this to get this.
They're buying the drones. They bought a drone company or something.
They automatically already shared that infrastructure.
No. Yeah, it's basically Google and Facebook and everybody struggling to find a solution to the global connectivity problem. They all see this is coming. They all see that the smartphones are going to go from $200, $300 to $50 to $20. And they all see that whole market will open up. Instead of just 1 billion or 1.5 billion people now connected, it'll go very quickly by 2020 to 4 or 5 billion, by 2030, 50, 100, all of them, whether we do anything or not, whether we do guardian angel technologies or not. And they're kind of saying, what is that market? What do we need to do? How do we connect up all of them? And that's why, Facebook is willing to pay, $17 billion for WhatsApp, because it gets them connected to a lot of people that don't have smartphones. They just use messaging.
Whether just leverage their investment, and then on top of that, you can do all this stuff without having to put that cost into the kind of cost you are putting here. That's a huge amount of cost.
Right.
But even if you cannot reach 7 billion people, with 1 billion people who have the connectivity, you can really actually make that guardian angel useful, right?
Yes, that is, even if you connect to 100 million, it'll be useful. So you can begin prototyping and testing the technologies right away. All I'm saying is, if everybody is connected, then there is this networking effect. Basically, even if I don't have information about what your own situation, if I know everything happening in the neighbors, then I can assume you also going to be affected by the same thing and notify you too. And so there's a whole set of related issues of how to scale up the thing. But
And then another important challenge that you mentioned earlier, other people's knowledge become part of your knowledge too.
Right.
That's not obvious how to do that, right? I mean, it requires kind of intelligence to figure out what part of knowledge is useful for you. And that's not really research issue.
It doesn't have to be useful. All I'm saying is, if you know a hot stock market, you want to invest in, tell me about it too. I might invest. But the issue is, you may not want me to know. Some because of insider trading laws, some people's trading things have to be public, but the rest of us don't have to be told. And so there are things that you may or may not want to know. But what I'm amazed at, surprised at, is what's the so-called Facebook effect. Right? People seem to want to share even the darkest secrets with everybody else. I don't understand it, but that seems to be the new ethos in the system. And I'm surprised. Young people, I'm not sure liberal. They want to shock value maybe, but I have no interest at all in sharing what I'm doing and not doing. not because there's some secrets in there. I don't think it's interesting to anybody else. Why would they care?
No, you don't know until you share.
That is true. That is true. I'm told the reason why so many people spend so much time on the Facebook is this voyeurism effect. Namely, they want to know what everybody else is doing. It's just it's a curiosity of what everybody. And so it seems an interesting.
Yes, they want to be popular too, right? They put
Perhaps.
all those things by
That
themselves,
too.
so that hopefully they can get popular.
So this entire personal coordinator thing is really nice, but I have one slight doubt in my head about it when I think, and it's that it's very good to address. So if you just take the needs of every person on the planet,
Right.
it's going to be a very heavy data distribution. And for me, when I think about it, it's a very good infrastructure to actually address just the commonality part, but it's not the more personalization or the more heavy tail part. And I think getting to that is where actually it becomes really, really infeasible and becomes really, really more challenging.
Right.
Just getting to this particular part, just alerting me about disasters or these sort of things, it's fine. But there are just certain things which a very, very few set of people just care about,
Right.
and addressing that becomes a huge issue.
No, what you're saying is very true. That's how the current IT market is behaving. Basically, you look at what Google now does. All that they do is they will tell me about some restaurant or something, the things that they think everybody wants to know. My view is the long-term benefit is heavy personalization, mass customization of everything, so that every person is able to get personalized knowledge and solutions to their problems. And I believe we are at a stage we can begin to think about it. Now, what you're saying is that tail may be, but it's only if a human being has to program it, it becomes a big deal. If I can invent autonomic systems that learn with experience and share that experience, then it may not be so bad. Even if only it's like the Usenet, people, the communities that 50 people with a common interest get together from all over the world in the Usenet because they are interested in that small topic. And in that sense, I think it's both an opportunity and a need to kind of serve the tail. And if we can figure out how to serve the tail without requiring lots of people sitting and coding the stuff, then I think we'll get there. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah.